Great. Did you see the World Cup final this morning?
No, because we're in the studio working, and if I don't have my Wi-Fi connected to my TV in the house, I can't play on the phone for my wife.
Oh man.
Hey, so what really happened? So at the end, did my man Messi get his ring?
Do you really want me to tell you?
Yes. It's already out there, and it'll be on social media by the time it's over.
Man. Hey, you missed the greatest game in the history of sports, bruh.
Wow.
Yeah, but it was the greatest game, not only for the greatest game in the history of the World Cup, the greatest game in the history of sports. So watch the replay.
I will. And the good thing about it, when Messi ended up getting this, it completes his circle. And it's something Ronaldo doesn't have. Hey, so, we brought you on, it's great to get you on, AJ, to talk about a lot of different things. We've had all these movements since the Colin Kaepernick thing. Then we have, the Black Lives Movement. And so there's just all these different things have shaped even since George Floyd. And there's a lot of reflection as yourself. I mean, you can reflect on all these different situations, and you made a movie, you've written a book, and you've talked about it. So where are you located right now before we get started?
Well, I live in Henderson, Nevada, and I'm actually traveling today. I'm out in California in the ocean side area near Carlsbad, and just enjoying life, getting around and spending time with family and friends, and being safe, though, of course, trying to stay away from that COVID, man, but living life and enjoying spreading the gospel of love everywhere I go.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing, is we need a lot of that and a little bit more positivity with all the negative stuff going on. So I watched your movie, and you touched on a couple critical things. So let's just talk about it real quick. Let's get the elephant in the room. Is that you talked about African Americans and how they've transitioned from their fear of the police or being pulled over, and because of the social media, the information that's out there, the atmosphere that social media has kind of created within just in the Black community, the Trayvon Martin, who's nowhere down here in Florida, and just the story goes on and on. And I always challenge when me and Mike talk about this, is that we really have to get back to a couple of things that Martin Luther King or Malcolm X kind of said back in the day, was that we got to clean up our own community, but we also got to start looking at the things to address. So what made you do the movie talking about the challenges of being pulled over, being African-American, and the different fear factors that people are kind of angst that people feel today?
Yeah, so first I want to address what you said about Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. A lot of people make the false assumption that you got to choose between being like one or being like the other, right? And towards the end of their lives, they started to become a little more like each other. And I think we got to bring it, man. We got to bring all the love that we can muster, but we also got to stand up tall. And we got to fight back. I'm not saying, throw hands or do anything to hurt somebody. What I'm saying is we got to stand tall and stand strong. And we've got to fight for justice, because those in power that have all of the power, they don't want to give that up easily, and they'll walk all over us if we let them. People have shown that to us time and time again. Even though we've served our country, even though we contribute in our communities, we still have to fight for every inch of freedom that we have as Black people in this country. And so we got to bring it, and be a little bit like each of them, and also bring our authentic selves and our ancestry to the table, because we come from a strong line of people. And so in 2012, when I was stopped for walking in my own community, that was the straw that broke this camel's backs. I
understand.
Yeah, that's when I said enough is enough, man. I had been stopped dozens of times in my life. And at that time I was 48 years old, and I was like, I can't even go for a walk in my own community. No, this has to end. So that's why I made the film.
Oh yeah. And you touch on the point, and you brought up the military and the veterans. It was very hard for me to watch the lieutenant. They got pepper sprayed in Virginia. That to me, if you're in uniform and you clearly, the lieutenant clearly stated, look, I was scared to pull over, so I wanted to pull over to an area that was lighted. That made, he was very clear and concise in why he did not stop right away. Yeah. And just how it escalated. It's sad, the fact that you're in uniform and you're being disrespected, And so I think back to reflect, because I'm around the same age as you. Like, I told you I was in locking out. I was dropping my girlfriend off. I got pulled over. I was in my uncle's car. He had an expired tag, which I didn't know because I was borrowing the car. And then when they pulled me over, the guy's like, hey, I was like, one, not my car. Two, I go to college in Georgia. Three, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm a junior in college. No warrants. I'm minding my own business, and the fact that the interrogation that I went to and the humiliation of being sat on the curb right there in front of my girlfriend and being humiliated, it made me reflect on a lot of things, but it made me realize that, a lot of Nelson Mandela is that you can't exercise your rights unless you understand your rights. And so I think from an educational standpoint, and Malcolm X clearly said this back in the days, that we got to, after he came back from Mecca, he said, we got to start cleaning up our own neighborhoods. We got to start educating our own children. And sadly, in 1967, they passed the welfare bill. And it pretty much was the deterioration of the African-American family at that point, because they removed fathers from homes. And then we had a high incarceration rate by 1976 of African-American, young African-American males in prison. So it all comes full circle. And as you looked at your film, you had a diverse cast. So let me ask you, how did you find yourself? How did you shape that and make sure that you touched on like every area with a diverse cast?
Yeah, well, we interviewed more than 50 people, and we had more than 60 hours of footage. I'd like to think that I had everything to do with selecting the final folks that came into the film and whittled down, the film from 65 hours to 90 minutes. But there was a combination of an extraordinarily good team of people that I worked with and divine intervention. There's no other way to put it, because the final product that we came up with on a $60,000 cash budget and a lot of favors thrown up on top of that turned out to be a film that if HBO had made it, they would have spent $2 million and it still wouldn't have been as powerful. These folks in this film, some of them I knew, and some of them I met along the journey between 2012 and 2017 when the film came out. And some of the connections we made were just miraculous. One of my associates found a link to the story about Andrew and Jamel, the two people in my film, where Andrew's the cop and Jamel got framed by Andrew, sent Jamel to prison. And then when they found out that Andrew had done wrong, they let Jamel out and put Andrew in prison. And then when they're both out, they became best friends, like brothers, and they still are to this day. I couldn't have dreamed that up. And so we found them while on a plane, and I spent about 30 minutes trying to track them down on the plane using the Wi-Fi on the plane and email, and got through to them. And we were able to scrape together some pennies and dimes to fly out to see them several months later to come up with what was the perfect ending to this film. So if anyone out there hasn't seen it, they really need to watch it, because just looking at the title, Walking While Black, Love is the Answer. A lot of people might think, oh yeah, I've been there, I've seen, that happen. I know about what's going on, but nah, you don't know until you see this film, because it comes at the issue from a 360-degree angle. We've got cops, we've got people who have spent time in prison, we've got other people from all walks of life in this thing. And it really just, every time I watch it to this day, after seeing it literally hundreds of times, I still learn something new every single time.
Well, authenticity matters, and you talked about your budget, and and if HBO or Showtime had the budget, it'd be a lot. The authenticity of the short film, the authenticity of the independent directors, and is growing. And what do you think is that independent films are becoming more and more prevalent? Is it because we have access to social media, or is it that we're able to see things and we have the phone, the weapon of choice, to be able to correlate our experiences real time? So what's your thoughts on that, AJ?
Yeah, when you've got phones now that shoot in 4K and 8K in some instances, you can come up with some pretty dynamic shots, but you've also got to have the technical expertise. And we fortunately had some really good people doing the shooting and editing and all that stuff. And we spent just many, many hours, thousands of hours poring over every second of all the information. So, it takes a combination of things, but media has definitely been democratized. We've got access to incredible equipment at very low cost these days. And social media has just changed everything. It's changed literally everything about production.
Oh no, and it's reshaping the world. So as you look at this, what platform were you, what audience? Okay, so first let me ask this before I go any further, is how did you decide to get on this project and get it funded and do it? Or did you just have a moment you said, okay, this is something I need to do and I got to figure out how to get it done? So because I know for a fact when it comes to funding, budget, getting people together, me and Mike G, we go through it on a regular basis with this production because we have a team that everybody understand we got somebody behind us. It's just not me and Mike G. We get things done and get it marketed. So how were you able to get financing and then decide, this is who I got to put the team together? Because that's not easy, man.
It's not. No, it is not. And, back in summer of 2012, when I first started on this journey, really nobody wanted to hear anything about this. It wasn't in the news every single day. And it wasn't like people were lining up in the Black community saying, hey, we gotta stop this. Because quite frankly, the most pushback I got in the beginning were from Black professionals who didn't want to put their neck on the line. Attorneys and business leaders and others who literally told me, man, I feel for you. And that's happened to me, but I don't want to lose my business over this,
Wow.
Dude, so it was not easy, man. We struggled for 2.5 years until September of 2014, when I actually had an epiphany, a life change. I was over in Hawaii. I just finished a 50-state golf trip. And I did that trip not just for, it wasn't a boondoggle, man. Don't get me wrong.
No, I didn't look. Hey, I love golf. So I'm just like me and Mike both play. I'm like, yeah, okay. Hey, as far as I'm concerned, as long as you're on a PGA course now and then, just check.
Right. So yeah, I do love golf, and I've done a lot of golf writing and so forth. But it was a time in my life after going through that experience and then fighting with the police department in Howard County, Maryland for months and months and months saying, I just want an apology, dude. That's all I want. Just admit that you were wrong and then pledge to do something better and let's move on. And they refused to do that. And not only did they refuse to do that, but when I got into internal affairs and with the NAACP and with the Human Rights Commission in Howard County, I started to get followed and stopped practically every time I got in the car. And when they started to follow and stop my wife as well, and when I started to get death threats, that's when I became concerned. And so I say, you know what? If y'all are going to come after me like this, then I'm just going to go and do what I do. I'm in the media. I'm just going to tell the story, and you can do whatever you want. And so I started to work on that project. And I couldn't get the support for 2.5 years. I fought and couldn't get anywhere. And part of it was that I think spiritually, what I wanted to do was not in line with what was inside me. I wanted to make a film that was just going to get everybody fired. I was tired.
People.
Yeah, man, I was angry. I was upset. I was frustrated. I just wanted to get everybody fired. I wanted to burn the whole place down, not literally, I just wanted the system to be torched. Right. And so I tried to make that film, and God wouldn't let me make that film. And so, in the waters of Kailua Beach, 2.5 years after that, I had decided to go on this golf trip just to clear my mind, just to say, you know what, I'm going to take my life back. I haven't been doing the things I like to do. I've been sitting here in my house and just really upset and depressed and dealing with things that at the time I didn't know I was dealing with PTSD because I had yet to be diagnosed by the VA. I wasn't diagnosed with that until 2018. And so I'd been carrying around a lot of pain, a lot of hurt from my days in the military and just in life. And so this all built up. And so I think that the universe was telling me, nah, you gotta do something that will sit well within your spirit when you make this film. And so in those waters of Kailua Beach, I heard in my spirit, like it was you talking to me, AJ, if you want to make a film, if you want to make a difference, you got to do it with love. Remember the last words of your brother when he passed away, love is the answer. And even though they're your enemy, you got to love them to life. And you need to do that in the film. And when I did that, everything changed. That's when the money started to come. That's when the interviews started to happen. That's when Chief Melvin Russell of the Baltimore PD said, AJ, I can get down with that. I'm in. And he's been with me ever since, every single day.
Hey, so that's what the crux. And I'm gonna tell you, faith. A lot of people get upset. I'm a faith guy, man, and I totally believe that there's moments where God says, here's how you got to work this plan. And there's like when I was leaving the military, I ran into a little situation in my last assignment, and everybody was like, "Oh man, you should just ride it out." And I realized one thing. I have done 30 years of riding it out. I said, I don't have to ride it out anymore. And I say, hey, God, I'm going to put this in your hands. Give me some guidance. And the next thing I know, I was teaching at Georgia Southern. I was, and then just making a difference. So how you shape that and frame that was awesome. So, because I always wanted to pick at you because before we did this interview, we were arguing about this Baltimore Ravens thing. And I was trying to figure out, why Baltimore Ravens when he's on the West Coast? And I was like, so now I know so are you originally from Maryland?
Yeah, I was born in D.C. I'm a fifth generation Washingtonian, but when I was 5 years old, my mom wanted to move out to the suburbs. So my dad built her a house in the Lanham area, and we were Redskins fans up until Dan Snyder bought the team, and then I was like, I can't get down with that anymore. This guy's crazy. And so when the Ravens came to town, I wound up doing some work with them. And I really liked the guys that were on the team and in the office, and the chaplain, Rod Hairston, very, very cool dude. And so we just all got along, and I started to root for the team. And I've been a diehard Ravens fan ever since.
That's right. Well, you had to get out of DC anyway. No representation without taxation, without representation. Hey, just show up, vote, and you don't get that day. It is what it is.
Yep.
No. All right. So now that you're out, now that you've done the film, so what projects, what do you think you're trying to frame the future? What do you see yourself doing now?
Well, people ask me, what would I do if I won the lottery and won $1 billion, right? I'd be doing the same thing I'm doing now, just with a lot more money. We went from making this film to writing the book. We've got a 482-page book called Love is the Answer, where about half of it is my writing, and the other half I actually had contributors from all walks of life come in and tell their stories, about what love means to them and their interactions with police. And I've got police in there who have talked about their interactions with the public. And so the film and the book then birthed the movement, the Love is the Answer movement. And we're operating in all 50 states. We're operating in several countries now. And our goal with a 30-year business plan that began in 2012, we're going into year 11. Our goal is to educate 100 million people around the world on the Love is the Answer principles and get them to put those principles into action in their community. And this love thing that we're talking about is not the soft, mushy feeling that people think about, right? It's 4 action steps. The L stands for learn about people. And then the O, open your heart to their needs. The V is volunteer yourself to be part of the solution in their life. and the E is to empower others. And I guarantee everyone I meet, if you put those 4 steps into action with every interaction with every human being you come across, life will get better for you, for them, for the community, for the nation, and for the world. And we aim to prove that over the next 20 years.
Oh, I love that, man. I love that. Yeah, and as you just broke that down, I love the way you broke that down. As you've now looked at the last 10 years, and let's just say I roll it back maybe from Brock to now. And we looked at, it seems like we've regressed as a society. And my biggest issue, and I want to touch on this before we get out of here, is that I'm trying to pull something together to try to work towards stopping Black on Black crime. Young African-American males taking each other's life. And I love one of the things in your movie that one of the officers said, one white officer said, when he said that we're supposed to respect people, and we're supposed to love people, and we need to bring that together. I think in the African-American community, we got to get back to a few of the basics of not taking advantage of people in our own community, but actually, and the reason I think Malcolm X has gone to this day is because he started saying it's time for us to actually take care of business in our own community, clean it up, remove elements that are destroying our communities, and be a part of our society, to be be a force multiplier, as in a life taker. And so, what's your take right now with the hive? Saw it just on the East Coast the other day in New York, or I think it was New Jersey, where the young boys just went in there and shot each other. I mean, it just tore my heart up. I mean, what is it going to take for us to fix what we got to do?
You know, it sounds simple, but we got to learn how to love each other. You know, and it comes back to the fact that most people aren't taught how to love themselves. They're not taught how to love their neighbor. You know, we're just left to ourselves. Like parents are kind of left to themselves to figure out, how do I raise this newborn baby that just came into my life, right? Parents don't go through many classes on that. We just deal with it, right? Now we might YouTube it, I guess is what they do today. But people aren't taught how to love either. Have you ever, I know you're an educated man, have you ever had a class, I'm talking about a semester-long class, on how to love?
No. I mean, you learn it. If you didn't grow up in our era, because 60s, 70s, with that grandmother or that grandfather, that uncle, that just seems to be that one that had God in his life. Just taught you a value system that people matter, and that the Good Samaritan. I mean, people don't even teach the Good Samaritan rule anymore. It's like, hey, you see somebody broke down, oh well, that's the problem. Like, I can keep rolling. Yeah, you're right. The love's gone, bro.
Yeah, it's survival of the fittest, and that, man, I'm telling you, that doesn't take us anywhere. We got to learn how to love each other. And so, if you're a parent watching this, sit down and have that talk, with your kids, not once, not twice, but 50 times, right? About the importance of being there for other people, and also for self-care. We just lost an incredible person, not just a great dancer, but an incredible human being. Twitch took his own life,
yes.
Right? I don't know the details behind it, but I know I tried to take my life in 1983 when I was in the service. And I thank God that I was stopped, by the security police who had been called to come check on my welfare, and it's ironic, right, that now I'm doing work to improve police community relations. We gotta get back to basics, about how do we take care of each other? How do we become this Ohana, which is, Hawaiian for family and extended family? Like my neighbor, the person down the street, I need to treat that person like they're my favorite family member, right? I can't be walking around having beef with everybody all day long. We got to figure out ways to get along. And sometimes that means saying, I'm sorry. Sometimes that means, saying, look, I was wrong. I shouldn't have spoken with you that way. Will you forgive me? Please. That's another Hawaiian principle that we bring into our work. It's a funny word called ho'oponopono. And I love that. It's about reconciliation and becoming one with each other. And then, finally living with Aloha, which is literally the breath of life, right? We got to breathe life into each other. We got to we got to spend time and get below the surface and make sure that each other is okay. Spend the time to make sure that we do the self-care that we need, meditate, do yoga, whatever you need to do, go for long walks, forgive yourself, stop carrying around so much pain. Right. And we got to do that work. And is it manly to do that? Absolutely. A real man and a real woman, and whatever you consider yourself, if you take the time to do that self-care and you take the time to care about others around you, the clouds will go away eventually, and that rainbow and that sunshine will come out. And that's what we need to see in this world. We're warriors, right? We've been trained to be warriors, but the biggest, most powerful part about being a warrior is knowing when to bring peace, knowing when to love people, right? Knowing when to have compassion and empathy and show grace. And that's where we need to get to. Yeah.
Even Abraham Lincoln at the end of the Civil War, as bad as he had issues with the South, he literally tried to put it back. He used the Bible as his construct to try to put America back together and move African Americans forward, and then try to bring balance to the South. And so we have people in this world trying to make the difference. It's just ironic that you don't hear about these people, and they're not on the news. They're like yourself, AJ. The thing is, this is something that the news should be promoting and things you should be hearing about it. But no, it's breaking news on a regular basis. We just don't see the positive lights that Anne-Marie Johnson, yourself, and so many other people are trying to do to help the communities out there. So before we get out of here and wrap this up, what words, if you had to leave your imprints in this sand, in this history of where we're at in America in this 21st century, what words would you leave with everybody out there?
Oh man. Well, it's simple for me, man. It's love is the answer, going back to that. I'm going to say it again, just to make sure the people in the back hear it. Learn about people, including yourself. Open your heart, volunteer to be part of the solution, and empower others to do the same. Those 4 things. If I can get people to embrace those 4 things, that kind of love, and leave that kind of a legacy, then I've done my job here.
All right, amen. And so with that being said, as me and Mike G says from the Iraq studio down in Tampa, Florida, my man AJ, we blessed, and you have a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and we appreciate you, man. And with that being said, as me and Mike G always say, keep it rolling.
What's right before your eyes, the one who's gonna fill all those lonely nights. Are you looking just like me?
Welcome.
Oh, Mike, I had to get my little squirrel on, man, because I was all into
Or we need you when you
everybody has
sleep.
post-traumatic stress. It depends on what area you come from. And some people take medication, some
A little crazy.
Hey, so we want to.
It's always been
It's working. It's really nice. It's just grabbing your eyes.
Who am I gonna love? Who's gonna be enough? Not just somebody.